Okay, hello and thank you for joining this webinar about business continuity planning. So we'll just wait perhaps a minute for everyone to join. Yeah, and in the meantime, please let me know where are you joining from. So I'm calling in from Zagreb, from Croatia, and let me know where are you joining from, so city and country. And if you joined through Zoom, you can actually do this through this Q&A panel. And if you joined through LinkedIn or through YouTube, you can actually send it through a chat message. Okay, so while I'm waiting for your inputs, just a couple of notes. First, we are recording this webinar, and you'll be able to watch basically the webinar from the same page where you registered for the webinar. So if you registered on the 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗶𝘀 website, then you will see it at the same page where the recording you will see on the same page where you registered. And if you are watching this webinar through YouTube or through LinkedIn, then you can actually see the recording on the same page where you're seeing the live webinar now. Second, you'll be able to download this presentation deck, and I'll actually answer you at the end of the webinar where you will be able to download it. So if you can just stick to the end, you'll be able actually I'll explain you how this works and where can you find this link. Okay, great. I see some inputs. So from Germany, from Stuttgart. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. Good. Yeah, so let me start the webinar. So welcome to this webinar, how to use ISO 22301. This is a business continuity standard to write a business continuity plan for NIS2 and DORA. And as you know, NIS2 and DORA are European cybersecurity regulations. My name is 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗶𝘀𝗁 and I'm the main ISO 27001 and NIS2 and DORA expert at 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗶𝘀. And 𝗹𝗲𝗴𝗲 is a company that makes compliance easy to understand and simple to use. And this webinar today will last approximately 55 minutes, and I'll try to make it as interactive as possible. So please do ask any questions during my presentation, and I'll actually try to answer them as I go through my slides. Of course, if you send any questions later on, I'll answer the questions during the Q&A session. Okay, good. Let me then switch to the next slide. Basically, why is this topic important? So basically the topic is important because these business continuity plans are of course mandatory according to NIS2 and DORA, which actually is kind of funny because they're not mandatory in ISO 27001. 27001 does not require business continuity plans, but NIS2 and DORA do. And the thing is that if you use this ISO 22301, as I mentioned, so this is a standard that is focused on business continuity, then the planning will be much easier because 22301 gives you a much clearer idea on how you actually do this business continuity planning, and it also gives you a very clear idea on what you have to do before you write these business continuity plans. So how you do the business impact analysis, business continuity strategy, these kind of things. Today I'm not going to speak about the BIA, business impact analysis, or business continuity strategy. I have separate webinars for that, but today I'm focusing only on business continuity planning, which includes also disaster recovery plans and similar plans. This webinar today is really intended for any cybersecurity professionals that are, let's say, involved with NIS2 and DORA. What you'll see is some practical things that you actually have to take into account. Okay, very well. So let me actually share a screen from a LinkedIn poll that I posted a week ago. Basically, the question was, is ISO 22301 useful for creating business continuity plan when complying with DORA or NIS2? And the answer was overwhelmingly yes. So 95% of people actually answered yes, and only 5% no. And this is something like 42 votes. So it's pretty, I would say, representative when it comes to, let's say, relevance. Okay, great. So let me go back here. So in other words, obviously, I mean, ISO 22301 obviously is for most professionals something that they regularly use. And as it says here, ISO 22301 provides, I would say, easy to understand business continuity framework. And it can be used not only for, let's say, ISO 22301 certification, it can be used also as a basis for complying with, in this case, with NIS2 and DORA. Good. Now, let's move on to agenda. And as you will see today, I'll go first through these requirements of NIS2 and DORA. So what exactly do these two frameworks, these two regulations actually require with regards to business continuity planning? So I'll show you this. And by the way, as I go through this agenda, you can actually let me know through messages what topic would you like me to focus on. So if you have any specific topic that you would like me to spend more time on, then let me know through a chat window or through this Q&A pane, and then I'll try to dedicate some more time to this. Anyway, second topic will be about ISO 22301 requirements for BCP. And by the way, BCP stands for Business Continuity Planning. Then what are the elements of business continuity planning, meaning I'll show you basically how to structure, let's say, what type of plans exist typically in BCP. Also, what are the roles in developing these business continuity plans? What are the structure of incident response plans, which is, by the way, one of the plans, one of the type of business continuity plans, and also what are the structure of recovery plans, and I'll also mention disaster recovery plans. So all of these things are something that I'm going to go through today. Okay, right. Now let me go first for NIS2 requirements. So as you probably know, NIS2 is cybersecurity directive, European cybersecurity directive, which focuses on critical infrastructure companies. There are 18 sectors specified in NIS2. But what is important is that NIS2 does mention business continuity. So I'll show you this now. So as you can see, this is Article 21, paragraph 2. So let me just switch to another screen. So here I'm showing you on my screen this full text of NIS2. And let's scroll down now to this Article 21. And let's find this paragraph 2. So you actually here you can see several measures that are required, and one is business continuity. Okay, so in other words, NIS2 is not very specific on what needs to be included in business continuity. It only says business continuity plans. It does mention disaster recovery, crisis management. By the way, we'll share now with you this full text of NIS2, so you can actually open this chat window, and you'll find this link there. And if you joined through Zoom or through YouTube, then you can simply click this link and it will open in your browser. If you joined through LinkedIn, then because of some limitations in LinkedIn, you can't really click this link. But the workaround for this is that you simply copy the URL, paste it into your browser, and it will open. All right, there is another thing, there is another regulation related to NIS2, and this is this CIR, or Commission Implementing Regulation 2024-2690. Now this CIR is actually applicable to 3 sectors out of these 18. And this is applicable to these digital infrastructure companies, okay? So again, this is not applicable to all NIS2 companies, only those digital companies that belong to one of these 3 sectors. But in any case, CIR actually has the whole section called Business Continuity and Crisis Management, and this is located actually in this annex. So I'll open the annex of this CIR. And you will see that this annex, you will see that this annex is very, very detailed. So I'll just browse through here, but I'll show you then the business continuity part. Okay, so here it is. So business continuity and crisis management. And as you can see here, 4.1 is about business continuity and disaster recovery plan. And there you actually have quite a lot of more detailed requirements on what actually business continuity disaster recovery plans need to have, right? So as you can see, purpose, scope, and audience, roles and responsibilities, key contexts, and so on. And then yeah, it also says that you need to perform business impact analysis and that you need to test and review business continuity plans, these kind of things. And then there is this thing about backup redundancy management, crisis management, also very important. And this would be it. So many more details than you have in NIS2 itself. But again, here you have these requirements, but it doesn't actually say how you actually implement them. So this is why ISO 22301 is useful. Now, if you follow NIS2, then you probably know that each country actually publishes their own laws and regulations based on NIS2. And then these laws and regulations could specify some further requirements for business continuity. And for that purpose, you actually have to simply, if you're based in a particular country, you should actually look for a particular requirement from your country and see, for particular law in your country and see if there are some requirements. And here you have this NIS2 where to start page on advisor website. And if you scroll down, you will see this section. It's called transposition to local laws. And there you will find a couple of articles which explain some of these local laws. So Italian NIS2 law, Croatia's NIS2 law, Belgium, Latvia, Lithuania. Okay, and you'll find a couple of articles here. From what we analyzed from all of these local laws and regulations, there are no additional requirements for business continuity on top of what already this CIR 2690 specified. So far, none of the countries actually went any further than what CIR specified. Okay, good. Now let me turn back to my presentation. So I explained the CIR, I explained the country-specific regulations. We'll share another link with you, and this is a list of required documents according to NIS2. So just for you to have this information if you want, if you need anything around the documentation. Okay, let's now go for DORA. DORA is, unlike NIS2, DORA is focused only on financial entities. Okay, so this is like, I don't know, banks, insurance companies, any kind of, let's say, other financial entities, let's say investment funds, these kind of organizations. And DORA specified business continuity plans in Article 11. So let me switch back to my screen and go here. So Article 11. So this is a full text of DORA now. You also have in the chat window, you also have this link for full text. Response and recovery in paragraph 4. So financial entities shall put in place and periodically test appropriate ICT business continuity plans, notably with regard to critical important functions outsourced or contracted through arrangements with ICT third-party service providers. So basically it says, again, some general requirement here. And similar to NIS2, DORA also has its implementing regulations. They're called Commission Delegated Regulations. In this case, this 1774 is a relevant one. And here you will find articles 24, 25, and 26. So let me just browse through these. So 24 is components of the ICT business continuity policy. Then 25, testing of ICT business continuity plans. And 26, ICT response and recovery plans. And by the way, ICT stands for Information and Communication Technology. So let's just briefly see how this looks like. I'm not going to read this through, this is too detailed, but as you can see, it's much more detailed even than this CIR for NIS2. This is way more detailed. If we jump to the next article, testing, as you can see, again, pretty much detailed here. And 26, it's about ICT response and recovery plans. Again, quite a lot of details here. Good. Now let's go back to my presentation. Okay, so we've shared links towards this DORA regulation, also to this CDR 1774, and we'll share now the link with you also for a list of documents that are required for DORA. So you can also see this in the chat window now. Okay, now let's switch gears to ISO 22301 and basically how it can help you with any of these requirements for NIS2 and DORA. First, I'm not going to explain you the whole ISO 22301 standard. It would take too much time, and besides there is another webinar which explains 22301. But here I would actually like to show you what are these 5 core elements of business continuity according to ISO 22301. So first one is this business continuity policy, and it's a top-level policy which basically says the direction, let's say main responsibilities, what you want to achieve with business continuity, and this is required not only by 22301, this is also required, as you've seen, according to DORA. So this is basically something that you need to have. Anyway, there is an article which speaks about this business continuity policy, and you'll see the link to this article now in the chat window. The next basically element or phase when you're developing business continuity is this business impact analysis and risk assessment. So in one word you can actually call this some kind of analysis. Okay. So business impact analysis, the purpose of business impact analysis is to define all the resources you'll need for recovery, and to define the RTO, which is a recovery time objective, and RPO, which is a recovery point objective. So recovery time objective basically defines how quickly you need to recover, and recovery point objective basically defines how much data can you afford to lose, which is a key input for backup, for doing the backup. Anyway, we'll share now with you a link how to on the article how to implement a business impact analysis, where you can read more details. And then the next step is to define this business continuity strategy, and this is basically where you have to define what kind of resources what kind of resources are needed for the recovery, or better to say, how are you going to enable these resources so that they are available when you have to actually recover from a real disaster. So basically business impact analysis defines what resources are needed, and strategy defines how you're going to get those resources. And those resources are, for example, I don't know, if you have a data center, what will be your, let's say, recovery strategy if this data center is hit with some kind of a disaster? Or if you have an office, where are you going to, let's say, relocate your employees so that they can continue working if this office is not available anymore? Or if you have this kind of a disaster which simply prevents lots of people coming to work, then basically how are you going to enable the rest of your employees to continue working, even, let's say, if half of your employees are not available? So these are basically the questions that you have to answer in this strategy document. And only then actually comes the phase where you start writing plans. Now, why is this important in this whole story? It's important because you can't really write plans, I mean business continuity plans, without doing all the steps before. So if you don't have the business continuity policy, which gives you some clear guidelines on in which direction the business continuity needs to go, it will be very hard to do anything further. If you don't have this business impact analysis, which lists all the resources, you're not going to know, basically what you need to do, what the resources you need. If you don't have the RPO, you're not going to know how quickly you need to recover. If you don't have risk assessment, you're not going to know what are the biggest or most important scenarios that you have to prepare for. If you don't have the strategy, you will simply be left without any resources. You might have the list of resources, but if they're not ready when an incident occurs, then again these plans will be useless. So the point is, you actually have to do a thorough job of all these things, all these phases before, in order for your plans to actually be realistic. Okay, now of course I'll speak about planning in the next couple of slides, and the last step here is this exercising and testing. And exercising and testing is basically important because you're never going to have perfect plans. Especially when you write these business continuity plans for the first time, there will probably be wrong in many things. So the only way actually to let's say make them more realistic is that you actually test them in some realistic situations, and this is what is called exercising and testing according to ISO 22301. And there is another article which speaks about exercising and testing, and you can see this article now in the chat window. Right, now let's focus now on finally on business continuity plans. So typically, what kind of plans? So usually when the term business continuity plans are used, typically you actually typically we think about three different types of plans. One are these incident response plans, and basically these incident response plans are what you do immediately after an incident happens. So how do you respond to let's say a fire if it breaks out in your building? How do you respond to, I don't know, a bomb threat? Okay, how do you respond to a hacker attack? So all of these are actually incident response plans, something you do basically immediately after the incident occurs. And then a different second type of plans are disaster recovery plans. These plans are basically how you recover your IT infrastructure. Okay, so for example, if your, let's say, building is unavailable because of a fire, how are you going to, let's say that in this building you had a data center, how are you going to actually recover your data center, I mean your servers, on some other location? Okay, so this is something that you basically have to write in your disaster recovery plans. Now, just to make this clear, disaster recovery plans are not only about recovering your physical infrastructure. This could be also how do you recover your IT systems, even though that you're using, let's say, some data, some cloud systems. Okay, I mean, these cloud systems might continue working, but you know, if your employees who handle these systems are not available, then you still have to figure out, you know, how are you going to recover or work with these systems because your employees are not here, or you might not have the internet links working so that you can connect to these cloud systems, or you might have actually these cloud systems that go down, so you have to actually recover some using some alternative cloud provider. So these are all the, let's say, variations of these disaster recovery plans. And then finally, a third type of a plan is a recovery plan, and this recovery plan typically refers to recovery plans for business part of your organization, because as I mentioned previously, this disaster recovery plan is where you actually recover your IT infrastructure. But I mean, having your IT infrastructure and then having no one in your business departments makes no sense, right? Why, you know, who would then use all of these computers? So the idea is that you have to recover, of course, your IT systems, but also your business departments, which would then actually actively use those IT systems. So, for example, let's say that you are working in a bank. You have to recover all the IT systems for that bank, but also, let's say, your loan department. So the people who are actually approving loans, because without them, the loans are never going to be approved, even though that your IT systems might work. Anyway, the point is that when we speak about business continuity plans, typically we mean actually these three types of plans that are informing altogether some, let's say, bigger business continuity plan. And what you'll also notice is that this arrow at the bottom of this diagram, it says incident. So basically, as you can see, first what you activate are these incident response plans. Then after them, you actually activate disaster recovery plans, because disaster recovery plans are not activated right after the incident happens. Usually it takes some time actually to activate them. So you activate them typically after these incident response plans. And these recovery plans for a business part of your organization are typically activated at the end. So typically you would have this time sequence of activating these different types of plans. Okay, we'll share now with you this article which speaks a little bit more about structuring the business continuity plan. So you'll see it in the chat window. And now what I'll do is I'll go in more detail on what actually ISO 22301 requires you to actually write in various business continuity parts of business continuity plans. So this slide here actually speaks about what all of these things, all of these plans together need to have, what kind of elements they need to have. So they need to have, of course, defined roles and responsibilities. So who can make which kind of a decision. And this is very important because, let me give you an example. Let's say that you are, I don't know, working in a bank, and that, I don't know, let's say purchasing managers need to approve all the purchases, and that, I don't know, heads of the departments typically have the ability to purchase something up to $1,000 without a purchasing manager. Now, in case of a disaster, you know, this kind of system is not going to work because, you know, purchasing manager might simply not be available, okay? And on the other hand, if you are head of IT department, you might need to actually purchase, I don't know, new laptops or whatever, you know, within I don't know, 1 or 2 hours, and this could be a value of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. So there is no, you know, way you can actually follow regular procedure, purchasing procedure in your company. So in other words, business continuity plans have to define these specific roles and responsibilities, which are valid only if such a disaster or this kind of a disruptive incident happens. Okay, you also have to define process for activating the response, because, you know, if you have a very small fire in your, let's say, cafeteria, you're not going to activate a proper you know, disaster recovery or whatever, or not even incident response. So you'll simply use the fire extinguisher, you know, turn out the fire, and this is it. It doesn't need to escalate to anything bigger. So in other words, you have to really define what really activates, how you need to activate things within all of these plans, because overreaction can create also damage as well as underreaction to these kind of incidents. You also have to detail how you manage immediate consequences. Okay, so again, if you have again the fire, I mean some serious fire, you know, how are you going to protect people? How are you going to protect your assets? These kind of things. Details on how and with whom you communicate, including the media response. This is extremely important because the bigger the business is, the bigger the interest of public media will be. And then you have to define exactly, you know, who is going to communicate with, you know, the television, with, I don't know, some news, like, I don't know, any kind of media news outlets and so on. So this is very important because you can't really let anyone, you know, tell them what is happening. This is something that needs to be coordinated, and someone who is, I would say, authorized and trained needs to speak to them. Of course, you're not going to communicate only with the media, you're going to communicate also with your customers, with your shareholders. So again, you have to specify who is the one and through which channels you can communicate. How to continue or recover activities within the RTOs. So again, RTO stands for recovery time objective, and basically you need to specify what are the, let's say, steps on how you're going to achieve the recovery within this time frame. And if your RTO is, I don't know, like a week, then it's much easier to do something like that. I mean, achieve a recovery, rather than when your RTO is 1 hour, okay? Which, by the way, very often these, let's say, financial institutions, especially banks, have very short RTOs, because they cannot afford to be offline, so to say, for too long of a time. So the shorter the RTO, the biggest challenge would be actually to recover your systems. I mean, not only IT systems, but everything else in the company. And obviously, you have to keep this in mind. You have to keep this RTO in mind whenever you write your plans. And also process for standing down. So who will be the one to declare the end of this emergency, of this disruptive incident? because then you actually have to switch back to your normal business operations. So again, switching this too early might be dangerous. Switching this too late might be too costly. So this is something that again needs to be there needs to be a clear responsibility on who can actually decide on this. All right, now let's move on to the next slide, which speaks about some additional things that each plan must have, no matter which of these plans I mentioned, but each of them need to have a purpose and scope. So you need to have this as probably as the first section. What are the objectives? Typically this will be RTOs, RPOs, RTOs, these kind of things. Internal and external interdependencies and interactions. So for example, your loan department will depend for its recovery on your IT department. Your IT department might depend on, let's say, telecom link, on, I don't know, this and that cloud provider. So all of these things need to be specified in these plans, because otherwise people who are executing them will not know what to do. Resource requirements, of course, you have to list all of the resources or assets that you need. And bear in mind that this is not only IT. Obviously, this is also data, which is crucial. This is also people. Again, without them, nothing will happen. But this is also, as I mentioned, telecom links, hardware, software, maybe some kind of infrastructure that is needed. So all of these things you always have to list. What you'll also need is this information flow and documentation processes. So basically, what kind of information you need to send to someone else, what kind of information you expect from someone else for you to work. So all of these things you also have to specify, because obviously this communication is going to be crucial when recovering, when you do the recovery. Okay, now let's go through some specifics for incident response and what is it that 22301 requires here. You have to define these impact thresholds for plan initiation. What is typically this? This is basically usually done in a way that you actually estimate. So the thing is here, you are not going to initiate a plan unless this is really a bigger problem. And how do you define bigger problem? You define it usually by what is the estimated disruption time, okay? And let's say that you have an incident and that the estimated disruption time is, let's say, I don't know, 5 minutes. Obviously, then this is a smaller incident. And your, let's say, RTO is, let's say, 4 hours. Okay, if your RTO is 4 hours and the estimated time of the disruption is 5 minutes, then this probably would not actually activate these plans, because this incident is too short, okay, too small. However, if the estimated time of the incident, of the disruption because of this incident is, let's say, I don't know, 10 hours, which is longer than the RTO, in this case you would actually need to activate these plans, because you actually want to reduce this whole thing to an acceptable level, which would be the RTO, as I mentioned, 4 hours. So usually the criteria for activating the plans is if the this incident, if the disruption would actually last longer or shorter than the defined RTO. Okay. For incident response, of course, you have to assess the nature, extent, and impact of an incident. So, is this a fire or, I don't know, something else? How big is the fire? How will it impact your, I don't know, infrastructure, your data rooms, your server rooms, anything like this. Define how to activate appropriate response. So again, what kind of, let's say, means you have actually to turn off, to extinguish this fire. So you have to actually be specific there and specify what exactly needs to be done. Define processes for handling the response. Again, who is in charge of what, how the things are started, and so on. Have available resources, obviously, and communication with interested parties. Okay, this is something that I already explained. And now let's go for these additional elements in recovery plans. So just to explain this, recovery plans, when speaking generally about recovery plans, we can include in these recovery plans these disaster recovery plans for your IT infrastructure, but also recovery plans for your business part of the organization. And here in this slide, you actually see the things that are common for both of these types, both the disaster recovery and the recovery of these business parts. So you need to specify in these plans a recovery time objective so that anyone who is using this plan knows exactly how much time he or she has. Minimum acceptable capacity. So basically, what is your idea? So going back to this example of a loan department, let's say that they process typically 200 loans per day. Now, if they have a disaster, or disruptive incident, they might decide actually that they want to recover so that they can process 50 loans per day, which is 25% of the capacity, right? So you then specify in this recovery plan, this loan department, that the targeted minimum acceptable capacity is 25%, at least for the beginning. And then in the next couple of days, you can actually return this capacity back to 100%. Who must be notified? Again, this is about communication notifications, contact information, all parties involved. So you need to have their, I don't know, mobile phone numbers, because if you're not anymore in your office, if everyone actually left the building because it went on fire, then you need to know how you're going to get in touch with these people. Especially if, let's say, internet might be down. So internet might be down, but your phone network might still work. So this is, a way for you to communicate with these other people. Recovery steps for a critical activity to be developed by each recovery team. So yes, you need to define actually what steps are needed for actually you to recover particular activity. So for example, in example of a loan department, the first step might actually be that all of the employees of this department gather at the alternative location, that they actually check as a second step, that they check if they have all the necessary hardware. Third step is to check if the communications work. Fourth step is to actually check if they can connect to the central system software, whatever they're using. The next step might be that they check all the data, what part of data is missing, because the disaster might actually have destroyed some data. Then they would need to recover this data that is missing. So you got a picture. So basically you have to specify all these steps so that these people know exactly what they need to do to recover their let's say department or their activity or whatever they're doing. Okay, and let's go through some specifics for disaster recovery plans. Again, disaster recovery plans, since they focus on IT infrastructure, they have additional details, and usually they have the shortest RTO, so the shortest time for a recovery, which is logical. I mean, they need to recover first because everyone else is depending on them, right? You can't really process loans unless your IT department works, unless the IT infrastructure works. So this is why they're critical in terms of actually recovering first. Usually you can use the same template, overall template, as the other recovery plans, but of course then you will write down the details for a specific systems, and you can actually go even in more detail for each IT system. So you might have, let's say, for if this is let's say a small organization, it might have one disaster recovery plan with appendices for each IT system, or it might have several separate disaster recovery plans where each disaster recovery plan focuses on its own system. This really depends on the approach and what is easier for let's say a company, and again, this also depends on the size of the company. And yeah, each step in the recovery is determined by RTO of other critical activities. So if, let's say, the loan department has an RTO of, let's say, 8 hours, then obviously the IT department, which is recovering the central IT systems, will have to keep this in mind, because then they will actually have to make sure that they recover these IT systems quick enough so that the loan department can achieve their 8 hours. Okay, good. Yeah, so these were basically the kind of requirements from ISO 22231 when it comes to different types of plans. And yeah, we'll share now with you a link to another article. It's called Understanding IT Disaster Recovery According to ISO 27031. So this 27031 is basically a standard that provides some details on disaster recovery. So if you want to learn about more details, you can actually take a look at this standard. Okay, and what I'll show you now is on the screen is this product that we have. These are documentation toolkits. So we have documentation toolkits for several standards. But when speaking about NIS2, we have this documentation toolkit that does have also business continuity included here. So you can see here business impact analysis, questionnaire, business continuity strategy. Okay, this is not so important. Crisis management plan, business continuity plan, and so on. So basically what it does, actually, it provides you all the templates that you need for complying with, in this case, NIS2. We also have, by the way, local versions of these NIS2 toolkits for other local legislation. So I'll just show you how this looks like. So when you write, for example, this business continuity plan, this wizard actually takes you through these steps, and once you fill out these details, it actually enables you to download the document. So I'll show you now how this works. Okay, so let me open the document. Okay, let me try to do it again. Okay, here it is. So basically this is how to download the document looks like. You download it on your local disk. And here you can actually see it already inserted automatically, the logo, the company name, and then it inserted also some things that you entered through the wizard. So in this case, this is the approver. It entered this data because I entered this through this wizard, and it actually created the whole document. And so you can see it's structured like purpose, scope, and users, reference documents, business continuity plan with all of these elements, restoring and resuming business activities. So all of these things are here. And as you can see here, you have this text already. It's everything is here. You have the references for NIS2 directive, for this CIR, also to this ENISA technical implementation guidance section 4.1, because this is also a document from, in this case, from ENISA, and of course, 27001, 22301. And then basically it goes further with the definition of various things, what the business continuity plans consists of, what are some assumptions, up to appointments and authorities, and so on and so forth. So this is how the document goes on and on. It's a pretty lengthy one. Okay, let me go back to, let me actually show you how this looks like in some other language. So let me see, okay, in French. This is actually a documentation toolkit for a Belgian market. Now I don't speak French, but let me try to find it in business continuity. So I think this is it. No, this is not it, sorry. Oh no, sorry, this is the 27001 toolkit. Now let me find the toolkit in, okay, this is, let's say, in Italian. So this is according to Italian NIS2 law. And yeah, I think this is the business continuity one. Again, you have everything here for NIS2, but also according to this the specifics for this NIS2 law in Italy. Okay, and yeah, when you open the particular document, let me show you one. Then you will see everything in Italian here. So let me just click it. Okay. Takes a little bit time. Yeah, then you see again the same, basically the same system on how to fill out these documents. Of course, when I download the document, it will come out in Italian. Now let me show you now, same thing for DORA. So again, DORA documentation toolkit is similarly structured to NIS2, but it goes in more detail. So I can show you, for example, these assets, risk management, and business impact analysis. So here you have some risk assessment documents, and here you have this business impact analysis document. Again, you have to fill out the details here. Let's say that I want to change this to internal use and move forward. And already the system already suggests you several entries here. Of course, you can change them. I don't know, you want to change this to CTO. And then download the document. Okay, and there you go. So you have this business impact analysis document, and as you can see, it already changed what I entered in the wizard. So it shows internal use, and yeah, you have all of these elements here. So basically, everything is here. And yeah, I didn't mention that you have these comments which actually help you fill out everything that is needed in the document. Okay, good. Now, yeah, we've shared now with you this these links in the chat window, and you can actually open these links, and you will see the details of these toolkits. And what's good is actually that you can sign up for a free trial, free demo. So you can actually open a free demo account and actually log into this wizard that I've shown you, and you can actually download free demo of the document, any document that you like. So you can play around it and see if this is something that would be useful for you. Okay, yeah, and just to mention, when you're on this NIS2 toolkit page, if you are from a particular country, then check out if you already have the local version of this toolkit. So you can actually see on the same page, on this page, when you click on it, you will see all the local versions of these toolkits. Good. Now, yeah, let's go briefly through these biggest challenges, and then we'll wrap up the webinar and answer to any of your questions. So one of the biggest challenges was performing a test of the various parts of the BCP. So yeah, basically the idea here is that you start with this testing in some, let's say, easier way, like a desktop exercise, and then each year you actually, or each test, each next test is becoming harder and harder and more and more realistic. And if you open the link to the article where I explained how this exercising and testing is done, then you can actually see several methods of doing this exercising and testing. Okay, another challenge was management of service providers and orchestrations of recovery efforts during the disaster. And yeah, of course, any company is now dependent on some third parties, and there's this supply chain risk, obviously. And when it comes to this exercising and testing, you always have to include actually these suppliers in your tests. So if you have, let's say, if you want to test your, let's say, how your internet links work, let's say that you have a primary link and a secondary one, then you should simply, simulate that you are turning off your primary link and try to connect to your secondary link and see if this really works in practice. So this is something that how you actually need to test if these other suppliers and partners are really doing whatever they need to do during a disaster. Not only this, or actually prior to this, you actually have to develop these plans together with them. Because if you're planning to do some kind of an activity during the disaster and you're dependent on it from your supplier, if they don't know about it, if they have no clue about it, of course it's not going to work. So you have to actually do these plans together with your suppliers and partners. Developing recovery strategies for critical processes. Okay, I have a separate webinar for disaster strategy. But basically, you have to figure out, for each type of resource, how you're going to recover. So, for example, when you speak about offices, recovery strategy might be that simply your employees are continuing to work from home. It's I would say, pretty viable and rather easy and cheap strategy. It becomes much harder if we speak about, I don't know, data center, right? It's not something that you can leave your employees to take servers at home, right? So in this case, you will need to have a secondary location with probably these part of your server is actually up and running at this secondary location, which is of course very expensive. So these are various strategies. It's also very hard if you have everything in the cloud, and if you're dependent on one cloud provider, then basically trying to figure out how you actually what is your recovery strategy if this cloud provider goes down, and then you have to see what other cloud providers can actually replace it in case of this kind of a disruption. So these are the let's say hard choices, and you have to think hard how you actually can overcome all of these issues. Okay, how to produce a sound business impact analysis linking to the risk assessment to justify the ICT continuity requirements. Yeah, you have to analyze carefully how actually these impacts are increasing over time. Because if you have a disruption, let's say for a loan department, if you have a disruption of 2 hours, probably nothing problematic will happen. Also maybe 4 hours, even maybe 8 hours, nothing drastically will happen. But after 24 hours or maybe 48 hours, maybe you start feeling some kind of issues if you are not approving new loans, right? And then based on this, let's say, points in time, you actually have to conclude what is the critical timing that you actually cannot really allow this time to go further. So this is business impact analysis, and if you read this article that we've shared with you about BIA, then you will see how you actually do this analysis. The management has no idea of business continuity, has no idea of what business continuity is, and they give you a reply that makes no sense. Yeah, so business continuity is not an easy thing to understand, especially these things about business impact analysis, RTOs, RPOs, strategies, all of these things. So I would say that you first of all have to educate your managers, to explain them all of these things and why do they exist, and then once they actually understand these things, then ask them a question, and then you can expect a better answer. So don't expect that someone without any prior knowledge will know right away what is their RTO. They will have no idea what RTO is in the first place, let alone define how big it is. All right, yeah, let me go now for a conclusion. So, even though ISO 22301 is not required by either NIS2 or DORA, you can actually see many similarities in those regulations with this 22301. And basically this is because most of these regulations were written with ISO 22301 in mind. So actually the point is that you can use the methodology from ISO 22301 to comply with all of these regulations. And of course you can use NIS2 and DORA documentation toolkits to speed up this whole process. And we'll also send you now this link to schedule a call with our toolkit expert, and he can actually show you how these full documents look like from these toolkits. So basically you can test these toolkits alone. You can open this free demo account, or you can schedule a call with our toolkit expert, and then he will show you all the documents that you need. Okay, great. Now let's go for the Q&A session. Okay, so I'll start answering some questions now, and of course feel free to send your questions if you want me to answer them. And before I answer your questions, just a couple of notes. So first of all, feel free to reach out directly to me if you have any questions around business continuity planning, and you'll see my email address on the screen now, so you can actually send me an email. Second, you can follow me on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and basically on LinkedIn I regularly publish some news from cybersecurity, from business continuity, lately also from about AI governance. So if you want to keep up to date, you can actually take a look at my LinkedIn profile. And on YouTube, I publish lots of videos where I explain how, I don't know, NIS2 works, how DORA works, how ISO 27001 work, 42001, which is the AI governance standard. So if you want to learn about all of these, you can actually take a look at my YouTube channel. And on YouTube channel, you also find this Secure and Simple podcast. And this is podcast that is made specifically for consultants. So basically there you will see, you will hear lots of tips on actually how to improve your consultancy and what kind of, how to find clients, how to find new markets, what are some best methods that you can use and so on. Okay, and the third thing is that my next webinar will be next Wednesday. It will be about how to perform internal audit for ISO 27001, for NIS2 and for DORA. And there I'll explain things like, what are the steps in performing the audit, how to find evidence during the audit, I don't know, how to prepare audit checklists, these kind of things. And here you will now see the link to where you can actually register on 𝗏𝗲𝗴𝗶𝘀 website for the upcoming webinars. Okay, good. Yeah, I see one question that I received from Aragav, and the question was how we can implement business impact analysis. Okay, I believe that I already answered that question. So you need to set up a methodology how you're doing this, and then you have to divide your company into probably departments, and then for each department then analyze the resources that are needed, what are these time slots, and basically how these negative impacts actually increase with the longer the incident or disruption is, the longer the disruption is, how these impacts are increasing, and then find what is the kind of point where you have to say, okay, this is how much we can tolerate, and on top of this we cannot tolerate it anymore. Okay, so I don't see any questions, other questions coming in. Let me see if there is anything else. Yeah, I think this is basically it. Okay, so let me then wrap up the webinar. Just a few words before we finish. So as I mentioned, this one-hour webinar was too short to go into details like, risk management or I don't know, business impact analysis, and for that purpose we have these other webinars. And of course, to use those documents, you can simply log into these toolkits and test these documents out. And regarding the PDF presentation deck, so if you joined the webinar through LinkedIn or through YouTube, then you can actually be able to see the link for downloading this PDF presentation deck in about 10 minutes on the same page where you're watching the live webinar now. So after the webinar is completed, simply leave the page open and come back in maybe 10 minutes, and then you will see in the comment section, you will see a link to download this presentation deck. If you join the webinar through Zoom, so if you registered on 𝗏𝗏𝗴𝗶𝘀 website, we'll actually send you this link through email latest by tomorrow morning. And we'll also send all the other links that I shared during this webinar today. So you'll also see this in YouTube, in LinkedIn, and also in your email if you joined through Zoom. And this would be all. Thank you very much for your participation, and I hope you have enjoyed this